A lot of men don't discover cheating because they were careless or blind. They discover it because something inside them kept feeling off, even when everything on the surface looked normal. The pain usually isn't the betrayal itself. The pain is realizing your instincts were warning you long before the truth showed up. What most people get wrong is believing cheating starts suddenly. It doesn't. It begins quietly through changes in female behavior that many men naturally rationalize away. In this video, I'm going to walk you through how women's psychology shifts before an affair becomes obvious, and why these early cheating signs matter. Stay with me until the end, because I'll also give you a clear action plan so you know how to respond with strength instead of confusion. I'm Coach Janet, and if you want honest relationship advice for men, subscribe now. Shift 1. Her phone becomes emotionally protected. When a woman starts cheating, her phone almost always changes meaning. It stops being a neutral object and becomes something emotionally guarded. Men often feel this shift before they can logically explain it, which is why it creates so much internal conflict. You may notice that the phone is no longer left out casually the way it used to be. It's suddenly face down, kept close to her body, or taken everywhere she goes. Passwords may change without explanation, and notifications quietly disappear. These changes don't happen by accident, and they aren't about basic privacy. In women's psychology, secrecy increases when emotional investment is divided. When another man enters the picture, the phone becomes the bridge between fantasy and reality. Messages, validation, emotional excitement, and reassurance all live inside that device. Protecting the phone becomes a way of protecting the secret itself. Many men hesitate to trust what they're seeing because they don't want to appear controlling or insecure. They tell themselves they should respect boundaries and avoid conflict, but there is a difference between healthy privacy and defensive secrecy, and your instincts can feel that difference clearly. If you've ever reached for her phone casually and noticed tension, panic, or sudden defensiveness, that reaction matters. It isn't about you crossing a line, it's about her fearing exposure. Cheating signs in modern relationships often show up digitally long before anything physical happens. If this part already feels familiar, take a moment to like this video. This simple, passive action might help the next man awaken to truth. Stay with me, because once the phone changes, the next shift usually shows up in how she communicates with you. Shift 2. Communication loses warmth and depth. One of the earliest emotional changes men notice is a shift in how she communicates. Conversations start feeling flatter, shorter, or strangely distant, even when nothing obvious has happened. Many men describe it as feeling like they're talking to someone who is present physically but absent emotionally. At first, the changes seem small. Text replies become brief, calls become less frequent, and she asks fewer questions about your day. The curiosity and warmth that once felt natural begins to feel forced or missing altogether. This is often dismissed as stress, fatigue, or distraction. However, in Female Behavior Decoded, emotional withdrawal usually signals redirected attention. Emotional energy doesn't disappear without reason. It moves toward wherever excitement, validation, or novelty is being fed. When another man enters her emotional space, communication with you often becomes mechanical. Body language follows the same pattern. Eye contact decreases, physical closeness fades, and conversations feel transactional rather than intimate. She may still speak politely, but the emotional investment that once held the connection together feels thinner. This creates confusion because nothing dramatic has happened yet. Men who are loyal and emotionally invested often talk themselves out of these signals. They convince themselves they're overthinking, imagining things, or being unfair. But intuition doesn't shout, it whispers repeatedly until it's either acknowledged or ignored. If this video feels like it's confirming instincts you've already had, that matters. Stay with me, because the next sign is where most women eventually slip up, no matter how careful they think they're being. Shift 3. Her stories stop lining up. One of the clearest cheating signs men eventually notice is inconsistency. At first, it feels small and easy to dismiss, which is why it's so dangerous. A detail here, a timeline there, something just doesn't quite add up, but you convince yourself it's nothing. She may tell you she was at a certain place, then later mention being somewhere else during the same time frame. She might explain a late arrival in a way that feels rushed or incomplete. These moments don't usually arrive as obvious lies. They show up as gaps. In women's psychology, maintaining deception requires constant mental effort. The truth flows naturally, but lies have to be remembered and managed. When a woman is juggling two emotional realities, details eventually collide. Most men miss this stage because they want to trust. They don't want to become suspicious or confrontational. They choose comfort over clarity and tell themselves they're reading too much into it. But here's what matters. When stories don't align, there is always a reason. Reality doesn't contradict itself, but deception eventually does. These inconsistencies are not random mistakes. What reveals even more is her reaction when you calmly point out the mismatch. A woman who is honest will usually clarify, correct herself, or acknowledge confusion. A woman who is hiding something often becomes defensive, irritated, or accusatory. She may flip the focus onto you and question your motives. Suddenly, you're labeled insecure, controlling, or paranoid. This deflection is one of the strongest indicators in female behavior decoded. Men often internalize this and take responsibility for her reaction. They apologize instead of observing what just happened. This is where many men lose their footing and start doubting their own reality. If you've ever felt confused after asking a simple question, pause and reflect. Confusion is often created intentionally to stop further inquiry. Clarity threatens deception. If this section is resonating with you, take a moment to like the video so more men can access relationship advice that actually explains these moments. And if this video is confirming instincts you've already had, drop the word clear in the comments. That simple action helps other men feel less alone in what they're experiencing. There's another layer to this sign that's important to understand. Over time, the contradictions tend to increase, not decrease. What started as small gaps eventually becomes full-blown inconsistencies that are harder to ignore. Men who catch this early often say the same thing. They wish they had trusted themselves sooner instead of waiting for undeniable proof. By the time proof arrives, the emotional damage is already done. Dating advice for men often focuses on confrontation, but awareness comes first. Seeing the pattern clearly allows you to regain emotional balance. You stop reacting and start observing. This is also the point where many men sense a shift in her emotional availability. She becomes more guarded in conversations that require honesty. Questions that once felt safe now feel threatening to her. That tension you feel when certain topics come up is not accidental. It's your nervous system responding to incongruence. Your body often recognizes truth before your mind is ready to accept it. Stay with me because the next sign is the most personal one. It's the shift men feel not in conversation, but in intimacy itself. Shift 4. Her sexual energy shifts noticeably. This is often the sign that hits men the deepest, even if they struggle to talk about it. When a woman starts cheating, her sexual energy almost always changes, and it rarely stays neutral. Men usually feel this shift long before they understand what it means. For some women, guilt creates distance. Physical affection decreases, intimacy feels forced, and excuses become frequent. She may say she's tired, stressed, or not in the mood, but the emotional warmth that once existed feels absent. For other women, the opposite happens. New excitement from another man spills into the relationship. Suddenly, she seems more adventurous, more intense, or more sexually energized in ways that feel unfamiliar. Men often misinterpret this surge as a positive sign. They assume the relationship is improving or that passion has returned naturally. But in women's psychology, sudden, out-of-character behavior often points to an external source of stimulation. Both extremes signal imbalance. Withdrawal reflects emotional disconnection, while sudden intensity often reflects borrowed excitement. Either way, the rhythm between you has shifted, and that shift didn't happen without reason. What makes this sign so confusing is that it contradicts logic. Shift 4. Her sexual energy shifts noticeably. This is often the sign that hits men the deepest, even if they struggle to talk about it. When a woman starts cheating, her sexual energy almost always changes, and it rarely stays neutral. Men usually feel this shift long before they understand what it means. For some women, guilt creates distance. Physical affection decreases, intimacy feels forced, and excuses become frequent. She may say she's tired, stressed, or not in the mood, but the emotional warmth that once existed feels absent. For other women, the opposite happens. New excitement from another man spills into the relationship. Suddenly, she seems more adventurous, more intense, or more sexually energized in ways that feel unfamiliar. Men often misinterpret this surge as a positive sign. They assume the relationship is improving or that passion has returned naturally. But in women's psychology, sudden, out-of-character behavior often points to an external source of stimulation. Both extremes signal imbalance. Withdrawal reflects emotional disconnection, while sudden intensity often reflects borrowed excitement. Either way, the rhythm between you has shifted, and that shift didn't happen without reason. What makes this sign so confusing is that it contradicts logic. Men expect cheating to reduce intimacy, not sometimes increase it, but female behavior decoded shows that emotional spillover is very real. Your body notices this even when your mind hesitates. Intimacy starts to feel different, unfamiliar, or disconnected from emotional closeness. When something feels off consistently, it deserves attention. Men's action plan: how to respond with clarity and control. If you recognize these cheating signs, the most important thing you can do is slow down emotionally. Do not accuse, explode, or chase reassurance. Emotional control gives you leverage and clarity. Start observing patterns instead of isolated moments. Consistency reveals truth far more reliably than confrontation. Create emotional space so you can see behavior clearly without being pulled into confusion. Ask calm, direct questions when appropriate, and watch reactions more than words. Defensiveness tells you more than explanations ever will. Most importantly, trust your instincts without rushing to conclusions. Clarity gives you options. Emotional chaos takes them away. If this video put words to something you've been feeling but couldn't explain, you're not alone. Subscribe for relationship advice for men that respects your intelligence and your instincts. Share this with a man who needs it, and drop your story in the comments. Your experience may be the clarity another man needs. I'm Coach Janet.